Are Mpopala's days as Joburg mayor numbered? Well, minority parties in the Johannesburg Council are determined to boot her out of office, but they'll need the support of the EFF. The motion against Palatse was tabled on Wednesday, but had to be shifted to today due to time constraints. The Joburg Council is sitting, and let's get you the latest now from our reporter, Moloko Moloto, who's attending that sitting for us. Moloko, yesterday also there was that rejection by the EFF, ANC and other minority parties when it came to that loan that the executive mayor wants. What does this mean then going forward? Because she seems adamant that the city needs this money for service delivery purposes.
In simple terms, it means that the city is getting into more trouble in terms of the finances because it requires, according to the executive, urgently, it requires that money to keep the city afloat. And it was rejected yesterday for the second time. The councillors from the ANC, the EFF, as well as minority parties constitute the majority, and they rejected it, which means that the city will have to find money elsewhere to continue funding some of these other operational matters. However, the executive is saying that salaries for the month of November and the month of December are secure, they will be paid. Now, this morning obviously marks day 2 of this 2-day meeting. It started just a few minutes ago, and the ATM, which is one of the smaller parties that has proposed a motion of no confidence in Executive Mayor Palatse, requested a 1-hour caucus meeting. And they were granted. They are still in that caucus meeting. What I have noticed is that the caucus meeting is not only joined by smaller parties, even councillors of the African National Congress seem to have joined that particular caucus meeting. However, with the EFF, they did not join it. They are still in the council chambers. We don't know what in the main they are talking about. What we know for a fact is that while they agree that Mpopala's must be removed as the executive mayor of Johannesburg, these minority parties collectively, by the way, they hold about 12 seats, and the African National Congress on the other side, while they agree that they must vote out Mpopala's, they don't agree on who then should become the next executive mayor. The ANC is adamant that it must field the regional chairperson, Dada Morero, to become the executive mayor, while on the other side, the minority parties are saying, give us a chance, as you, the ANC and the EFF, are still trying to resolve your issues in Ekurhuleni. You would recall the EFF had said that it must take Ekurhuleni, and it will therefore only on that basis support the ANC to take over Johannesburg. So we don't know at this point in time whether, should this motion of no confidence proceed today, whether the EFF, considering that they don't have Ekurhuleni yet, whether they will be able to support the ANC and the minority parties to vote out Mpopala's. But it is important to note that the EFF and the ANC alone cannot vote out Mpopala's in Johannesburg. They need the support of the minority parties. The question is, will the minority parties give in the end and say, okay, take the mayorship? It doesn't sound like, because when you speak to them, they are adamant that they can actually do the job.
And of course, we know that this is a numbers game, Moloko, and as you mentioned a little earlier on, at some point with the city of Ekurhuleni, we did think that Tanya Campbell would, stay out of office after those few days of that city having no mayor. But the EFF came and they were surprising, and even their national leaders such as Julius Malema were calling the ANC arrogant. So I wonder if those talks ruined, their support from or rather the EFF support for the ANC and minority parties in the city of Johannesburg. How does it look in terms of the EFF, especially after they voted with minority parties and the ANC to say no to that loan yesterday? Does it look positive for the ANC?
Well, let's remind our viewers that in Ekurhuleni, the ANC and the EFF, just the two of them, can actually remove the mayor there of the DA in Ekurhuleni. They don't need any other smaller parties for them to have enough numbers to remove Tanya Campbell. And that is why we saw it was so easy for them to remove her. And of course, she was reinstated, all because the EFF voted with the DA and other smaller parties to reinstall Tanya Campbell. If you come to Johannesburg, it's a different matter altogether. The ANC and the smaller parties do not have enough numbers to remove Mpho Phalatse. They need the EFF. So the EFF are the kingmakers.
Yeah.
And even if they were to remove Mpho Phalatse today as the 3 blocks, who then becomes the mayor? The EFF in Johannesburg still has a final determination. And we see them refusing to grant Mpho Phalatse to go and get that 2 billion rand. Perhaps that's an indication that to a certain extent they agree. But obviously Mpho Phalatse will know when they return from that caucus as to where she stands. We understand in terms of the program that it's really not going to be a long one. What is going to happen when they return is supposed to be an item 47, which is an outcomes of investigation into allegations of breach of conduct by councillors and also by Section 56 managers. And then the motion of no confidence in Mpho Phalatse will kick in. My understanding is that those 2 items that deals with issues of misconduct will be held in committee, meaning as members of the media and the public, we will be asked to step outside. But this motion of no confidence certainly, and interestingly, Masero, according to the program, there are 2 motions of no confidence in Mpho Phalatse. The first one sponsored by the AIC's Margaret Arnolds, and the second one sponsored by Lubabalo Magwenju of the ATM. So I'm a bit puzzled. I'm not too sure what the end game is here as to whether should the first one fail in terms of the vote, what will then happen to the second one? Will there be a second vote? That's a matter that I think we must try to get hold of the speaker for her to outline, because one would have thought, because the reasons are more or less the same, perhaps they would have been combined as one item. But in terms of the program, there's are 2 motions. The other motions, of course, are about the removal of Section 79 committees, chairpersons, because some of them are still held by DA and Action SA councillors.
And just lastly and very quickly, Moloko, in terms of the House rules, right? In Parliament, for instance, once a motion is either passed or not passed, you cannot have another motion of no confidence on the President or anyone in the executive for about 6 months, right? That's what happens on a national level. But regionally, it looks different, with Mpho Phalatse having to go through another motion of no confidence against her in just a matter of about 2 months. Are they looking at changing those rules or finding out legally if it's possible to do that?
So local government or municipalities are a different sphere of government, and they, to a large extent, are independent. As much as there are universal regulations like the Municipal Finance Management Act or the Municipal Systems Act and Structures Act, they can also draft their own rules which will govern their operations and their procedures in council. In Ekurhuleni, we know that you have to wait for 6 months also for you to bring another motion of no confidence in the executive mayor if the other one failed. So that is what, according to Mpho Phalatse, she wants that to happen, because she feels like this thing of bringing motion of no confidence every week or every month kind of like disturbs the operations of the municipality. But the question is, she doesn't, or the DA-led coalition doesn't have the numbers currently. Chances are that should that happen, it would require the majority, which is the ANC, the EFF and minority parties, to support that. And I don't think they will support that. If they support it, they would first want to get rid of her as the executive mayor, and if they see it fit, they may just entertain it. But up to so far, it remains just a wish on the side of executive mayor Mpho Phalatse. The numbers from the ANC, the EFF and the minorities will be the ones who have the final say there.
All right. Well, it's not over until the fat lady sings, I guess, Moloko. Let's leave it there for now. We'll connect with Moloko Moloto just a little later on to find out from him what the update has been from the Johannesburg Council sitting.